you. Okay, we probably still have more people coming in, but I think we need to get started now. I want to introduce you to Sarah Eckhart, who is our current county judge, who is creating a stir by moving into another position, and all the people want to be county judges. And then we have Representative Eddie Rodriguez, who is also competing to get that Senate position. And so we would like to hear from both of you. And Eddie, if you don't mind, I'm going to be old fashioned and defer to ladies first. So
I'm an old fashioned guy. That's fine. Perfectly fine.
okay, let's hear from you, Sarah. Why do you want to be senator for the state of Texas?
Thanks so much. I have been in county government for 20 years, and it's been my pleasure and my honor to be there. And I've learned a lot about collaborative leadership through my work at the chair of the Conference of Urban Counties. Oh, wow, that's an amazing background, Anne.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. In any case, things have gone really well at the county level. We're not perfect. We've got a lot of work ahead of us as a county. All of the surrounding as well. We have a lot of challenges. But we work very well together. We work collaboratively.
Everybody, please mute yourself if you're not talking.
We work well together. We work collaboratively. We work across party lines and across geographic lines to get things done. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish at the local level. But much of what we're able to accomplish is challenged and even rolled back by actions or inactions at the state level. So while we have a really deep bench in Travis County with lots of people who are equipped and ready to serve and to continue our progressive trajectory, and do a lot of leadership even with folks in the other party, you can't really say the same of the state Senate. But things are changing, and in great measure, they're changing to the good work of people like Eddie Rodriguez in the State House. The State House is going to be very powerful when it flips. The State Senate is not going to flip as fast. It's going to take hard work, deep study, relationship building with people who may not necessarily think like us. And I think I have demonstrated an ability to work across the aisle and work on deep, intractable, difficult problems and figure out how to progress them. And so I would very much like to go up to the State House, State Senate, and take some of what we've learned about collaborative leadership at the local level up into the State Senate so that we can get all hands on deck to recover health-wise and economically from COVID-19. This is going to be a very difficult and very long recovery. The state budget is in tatters. I don't think that that is hyperbole. I think that the state is going to be reliant on its major metropolitan regions like Harris County, Dallas County, Tarrant County, Bexar County, and Travis County in order to stay afloat economically. I think that the state is going to have to rely on our taxing capabilities at the local level. And we're going to have to work collaboratively on reducing expenses, increasing revenues, rolling back preferential tax treatments that are no longer beneficial to our residents, and also looking for new ways to provide a social safety net for every Texas resident, not just the wealthy and powerful. I think that a new day is dawning for some of those on the other side of the aisle in realizing that you can't be pro-business without being pro-worker. And so I think that we have a unique opportunity that COVID-19 has handed us to get back to the essentials of what government is supposed to provide. Government is supposed to provide services. Local government has been providing services when the state has stopped governing. And so that's why I want to go to the State Senate. I'd love to hear y'all's questions. It's always more interesting to have a dialogue.
Yeah,
And I'm kind of starved for good conversation, working from home.
I think, Sarah, what we're going to do is let each of you speak, and then we're going to open it up for questions for both of you.
Okay.
If that's okay with you. So thank you so much. Now, Eddie, you want to take the floor?
Absolutely, Son. Thank you so much, and thanks to all of you. I want to apologize in advance in case I cough. I have really bad allergies right now, so I'm going to get one out of the way. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's
You just
truly,
scared the hell out of all of us. You know.
no. But it's allergies. I talked to my doctor. I swear.
I appreciate that he coughed the right way, though. That was.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, you got to do it that way. Thanks to all of you for being on here on a Saturday, and I really appreciate your time to talk to me. I'm running because I'm a bold progressive who fights for working families. I have the best experience, judgment, and vision to guide us through this crisis that we're in now, and to lead us in the long recovery to come. For the last 18 years, I've been fighting for Texas families, and that's simply because that's who I am. I'm originally from the Valley in South Texas. I'm the first in my family to go to college. And like many of us who came to Austin from another place, I fell in love with the city and I never left. In my time in the House, I've helped feed 700,000 more kids per year, expanding the free school breakfast program. I fought to save the 7th Street, East 7th Street Planned Parenthood with every Democratic woman in the House standing behind me. And I've also taken on the NRA with reasonable and sensible gun legislation. So next session, as you all probably know, that we're going to have a pretty dramatically bad budget. The next biggest issue, and it's not that far behind, I believe, is redistricting. So the next session will be my 5th redistricting session. So 1 as a staffer, and then I believe 4 as a member. And the next session is as a member of the Senate. Back in 2003, when I was a freshman, I was one of those killer Ds, one of those 51 Democrats that went to Ardmore, Oklahoma, god-awful place, to fight the Republicans' congressional redistricting map. And I want to tell you a little something about that. It's very interesting. I was in constant communication with Lloyd Doggett simply because, well, not simply because, but not only because Travis County was just obliterated in that map, but in that congressional map, and I lived in East Austin, I still live in East Austin. Lloyd Doggett was my congressman and my dad's congressman in McAllen, Texas. That's how messed up that was. And we fixed that one, fortunately. And then in 2011, Rick Perry and the Republicans began to slice and dice Travis County into 5 different pieces, congressional pieces, and I sued Rick Perry. The case was originally that went to the US Supreme Court, Rodriguez v. Perry. So I sued Rick Perry, went all the way to the Supreme Court. We didn't win that one, but it's still worth the fight. We got to keep these guys in check. As your Latino senator, I will fight for fair and just representation. I've proven that. So now, more than ever, I believe we need proven progressive leaders who will put working families and small businesses first. And that's who I am. Thanks for your time.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I know that people have questions, so I'm going to ask you to well, it's a little difficult for me even to see you raise your hand. So let me ask you, who has a question right now? Speak up, come on. I know people have questions.
Hey, Sandra, this is Deanna too. I'll go after.
Go ahead.
Deanna, you can go first.
Okay, hey, thanks. I appreciate it. So there are so many issues that we need to work on at the state level. What is your one top legislative priority for next session? Who would you work with and how would you go about getting it passed?
Should we switch back and forth since
No,
I'm first? Eddie can go
Sure,
first.
go ahead and go. I think the question was to you, wasn't it?
It's to both of you.
You want to go first, Sarah? Go ahead.
No, I think it would be fair to go back and forth, but
Okay.
Go ahead.
So that's a great question. I think that I had some priorities going into this coming session that are still really important to me. The one that comes to mind is community schools and expanding community schools, which is a tremendous model for turning around schools that are underperforming. I'm still going to give that a go, but really what I've learned the most about this virus, and hopefully we learn from this, and when I say we learn, that we grow as a state and try to address our issues that are basically just blatant now. It's like an open sore. We know what's up, and what really is up is that our safety net is very porous. We have people, the Workforce Commission could not keep up with all those folks that are applying for unemployment benefits. I was able to help as many as I could personally by reaching out to the Workforce Commission, but it showed that we don't have the capacity. Now, granted, we're not going to have an 800% increase all the time, but we know that we didn't have the capacity for it. And there's some other things that are quite, I think, glaring. I mean, I'm going to fight for a few things here. I think, we have waivers for the 1 week waiting period for unemployment benefits. Right, that's happening right now because of the virus. Let's look at making that permanent. And I'm going to fight for that. I think if the time is now, and there is an opportunity, because this is not a Republican or Democratic virus. This is a terrible virus that kills and harms a lot of people, Republican and Democrat. But now's the time to look at paid sick leave in a serious way. I applaud the city for trying. It was a little bit of a challenge to try to defend that in a Republican-led House, but I applaud the city for working on that. But I think now more than ever, we need to look at that. We need to look at things like, paid sick leave. We need to look at creating our own program in the state of Texas, like a Texas Family and Medical Leave Act. We need to look at those things seriously. The paid sick leave part of it, the reason why I believe that's critically important is because even if it's not a coronavirus, we want our workers to be safe, and we want them to not get us sick too. It's just common sense. And we need to look at something like a 10 to 12 day, maybe 15-day paid sick leave. It may seem like a long shot, and even if it is, I'm going to work on it. We need to expand Medicaid. This is also showing to be very, very important, now more than ever. There's some other things that we might want to do, I think, with that, let's do away with the copay and enrollment fees and the 6 month income check for CHIP. All this is, the state has done this, Republicans have done this for so long, just making it so hard to get benefits. And so the long and short of my answer there is that we need to look at how to, instead of being a benefit denier state, we need to start looking at being more, just more deliberative and helping the people in need. Because I think this is showing that we have failed to do that. And Democrats, like me, have been saying that all the time, a long time in this Texas legislature. And the last thing I'll say that's really important is universal internet access. If this has proven anything, it's that we're going to be doing a lot of this more often. And there are a lot of folks, poor people, low-income people, rural people that don't have access to the internet. And we've had this fight in the legislature before, and it's an interesting prospect because a lot of the rural areas are represented by Republicans, and they fight really hard to try to get access to the internet in the rural areas. So I think you might see more of a collaboration when it comes to that kind of universal internet access. We're going to probably see more schooling done via Zoom or Skype or something like that. I'm not suggesting that all school will go to this, but I think that we'll see some more of that. There might be some cost savings there. Certainly working from home, I think employees and employers are figuring out. There are people that I know very well that said to me before the virus, I can never work from home. I can never work from home. I don't want to do it. And now they love it. I mean, they're spending more time with their family, and they just actually like it a lot. So you're going to find, and then I think businesses are also finding, and they were reluctant because they thought they didn't trust their workers. They thought they're just going to be lazy and not be efficient and work as hard as they do. And we're finding that people are actually, working harder and more efficiently. So I think that that's another issue that I want to tackle is the internet access for everybody.
I think that's a great idea, Eddie. And I'm saying for myself, working from home, I not only enjoy doing it, but it saves on gas. And think of the traffic we would eliminate just if everybody who could maintained working from home. I think it's a great idea.
Well, and the environment too. Let's not forget about the environment.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And this as an aside, and I'm not trying to take anything away from time from Sarah because I want her to speak, but it should be noted that Greg Abbott vetoed Celia Israel's bill that would allow for state employees to work from home twice a week. Saying.
Yeah, I remember that because as a state employee myself years ago, we in Iowa did have that option, and we worked at 3 out of the 5 days at home. We came in twice a week just to meet and know that we, keep in touch and keep, FaceTime. But it worked. It was very efficient. Saved a lot of money all the way around. Susan had her hand up. I'm going to let her ask her question now.
Could I answer that
That
question?
question.
Is that okay?
Yeah, Sarah
Yeah.
needs to.
Yeah, Sarah needs to go first.
Okay.
And then I'll if we want to just keep with the flip flop back and forth, I'll answer the next question first and then kick it over to Eddie. Is that okay?
That's absolutely okay.
Okay, that sounds great. I just want to applaud Eddie for all of his tremendous fight in the Texas House, and you won't find a whole lot of difference between Eddie and I with regard to policy and what our values are. I too am absolutely in favor of paid sick leave. I'm, as he is, in favor of a livable wage, of healthcare, childcare, quality education. You're not going to find a whole lot of difference between us from a policy standpoint, or even from a priority standpoint going into the Senate. Absolutely, priority number one going into the Senate for this next legislative session is the budget. Absolutely, priority number one is going to be figuring out how to economically recover from COVID-19 while we're also balancing our healthcare, our health recovery. It has to be balanced. You cannot have economic recovery without health recovery. And you can't have healthcare recovery with, it will be difficult in a Senate with 31 senators and only 12 of them are Democrats. We have got to find common ground. It's not going to be enough to fight like hell. We've got to progress like hell. We absolutely must. And I believe that the state is going to be heavily reliant, will need to patch it up and be partners with our local elected officials, with our local economic engines, particularly with our urban economic engines, because they are the engine of the state. The rural portions of the state have been withering on the vine. This particular Senate district covers all of Bastrop as well. Our rural neighbors are not getting the kind of level playing field that they need in order to join the economic engines of our major metro areas. I know that Pflugerville has even experienced this, where the city of Austin has creates a magnetism, which is really positive for us all. But in that magnetism, sometimes our smaller communities can get lost in the shuffle, can get eclipsed. And we must figure out we must solve the sins of the past by having a statewide economic recovery plan that puts the jam on the lower shelf for everybody, as Ralph Riarber used to say. So I am going to need to work with people like Jane Nelson, need to work with people like Betancourt. Oddly, but I'll take a compliment wherever it comes from. Paul Betancourt complimented the Travis County Commissioners Court and our leadership on budget and taxation and appropriate investments in the entire community in a way that was sound, resilient, and would stand up to the tests of multiple disasters, whether it was drought, wildfire, bombings. We continue to get knocked down, but we come back. The state needs to take a page from our book and needs to be in partnership with the major metros and to truly assist our rural areas, not just pay homage to them in some kind of, old cowboy, political way, to actually help residents. I have spent 20 years assisting in a local collaborative way in building the kind of delivery systems for workforce development, for rent and mortgage assistance, for childcare, quality childcare, for family assistance that the state really needs to duplicate and make statewide. So We're going to have to figure out how to talk to that majority Republican body and talk to them in language that they can understand, that there is no economic recovery without building a safety net for our workers across the state, whether they're rural or whether they're urban. Doing that is going to require all the things that Eddie just mentioned. It's going to require K through 12 education. It's going to require quality health care. It's going to require sick leave. It's going to require broadband. We're going to need to duplicate what LBJ did with the rural electrification program, but it's going to need to be the rural broadband program.
Okay, I'm
That
going
is-
to interrupt you, Sarah, for a moment. We are going to run out of time, so all I want you to do is if it clocks out, just come right back in. If you need the password, it's NETCO at 1056, NETCO 1056. Now, Susan, let's ask your question.
And Susan, if you'll ask your question, and then after you ask your question, I'll make another attempt to ask mine.
Okay,
Oh.
David, Daniel, just, raise your hand and then
Go for it, Susan.
Oh, well, now looking at the two chambers in our governmental system, what's the difference between the two? What's the difference with, what's the benefit of being in the Senate rather than the House? And then what are there, I know there are different challenges and different requirements and things. So what's the benefit of being in the Senate rather than that, like the House?
Well, I'll go first this time. Actually, I think the House is going to be a lot more fun. The House is poised to tip to the Democrats. And that's because of great leadership from people like Eddie and Celia and Donna and Gina, working so hard to get it to tip. And seniority in the House is going to be extremely, extremely valuable to us. The Senate's going to be a harder row to hoe. As I said, it's deeply in a Republican majority, and it is managed by a lieutenant governor who really takes pleasure in a divide and conquer way of managing that chamber. But we need to go there. We cannot ignore the Senate. Even though I have a great job, or did until this past Tuesday, I have enjoyed every minute of being the chief executive of the 5th largest county in the state. And I think it's the 14th largest county in the United States. I've represented 1.3 million people, and it's been my deep, deep honor and pleasure to do it. It would be a lot more fun to say.
Sarah, let's give Eddie a chance now because we are running out of time.
Sure.
Okay. Susan, I guess the main difference, other than it's really the number of members, you have 150 in the House and 31 in the Senate. I wanted to be in the House when there was a Democratic majority, but it's just not in the cards for me. I'm going to be in the Senate. The difference, I guess, and I think the root to your question is, it could be argued that you can get more done. And the reason why I do this job in the first place is not for the paycheck. I think my last paycheck was $54 and change. It's because I want to help people. That's the whole reason for doing it, for me. I don't care that the title representative is on there. In the Senate, you do have, because you represent almost 1 million people, I look at it as an opportunity to help more people, to try to pass legislation. And it's arguably easier to pass legislation as a senator than than in the House. That's basically it. So I think of it as an opportunity for me to pass some bills that I wasn't able to pass. The second thing that's really important to note for me is I have served in the House with half of those senators, and maybe even more than half. I actually served with, there's some of them that we came in together in 2003, and they're now in the Senate. Unfortunately, a couple of them, namely Paxton, we also came in together, and now he's who he is. But my ability to be successful in the Senate is based on my relationships there. And I'm not saying that I'm going to get whatever I want, by far, certainly not. I mean, certainly Kirk didn't either.
Right.
But I have those friendships and relationships that would, I think, give me an edge on trying to get some things done especially with redistricting, especially when you have a Latino member that's there. It's going to be really challenging for them to want to redistrict and carve up Travis County like they have. And so for redistricting purposes, I think those relationships are going to be really important.
Well, thank you, Eddie. Daniel, you can ask your question now.
Okay. Well, it is. I'm saying that the time says it's 5 minutes. I'm wondering, is there a way, Sandra, for you to add more time, or should we come out and I'll come back in?
Repeat it again, okay? If we get cut off, you just clock back in, sign back in again, and we'll come back, okay? I cannot extend the time now, but we can come back in. So
Right.
don't anybody just go away. Just when it fades, just clock back in, okay? Now, I use the term clock, I mean click.
Thanks for that reminder, Sandra.
Okay, Daniel.
So yeah, let's see where we get with this question. So I think that we're all thinking about the COVID situation. That's top of our mind. But something that has been on my mind and really something that I hope that we're all looking forward to as Democrats, because I think that we can really lead in this way, is how we are going to recover. And so really thinking about the recovery, I think that both of these candidates that we're considering here, one of these candidates will be helping to lead the effort to recover Texas, to restore Texas to the strength that we were at before this COVID situation. And so, I know about Eddie, that Eddie passed the Beer to Go law, and which was a really incredibly innovative solution that has met a need for a lot of businesses, small businesses, and consumers. And so I'm thinking, as we're thinking about the recovery, we really need to be thinking about innovative and new ways to come back and grow our economy and respond to this situation. And so I'd like to hear about some innovative ideas like the Beer to Go law that Eddie passed that you think that would really help us to come back strong.
Okay, Sarah, just a minute, please.
Is it? Okay.
I think it goes to Eddie this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we have just a minute, that's going to be hard to answer that in a minute. I think, we have to look at small businesses and I think, some regulations that maybe make it harder for small businesses to succeed. We have to, I think, look at that for sure. I think the gig economy is going to come back too, and we really kind of need to know how we can promote that. I've done that through the Farm to Table caucus that I started, which is a bipartisan caucus. And so a lot of people that can maybe start to do their own businesses from home and then allow them to grow. And a lot of that really has to do with restricting regulations for them so they can grow. And then they can maybe grow into a brick and mortar type situation if that's what the case is. I think there is room for a lot of infrastructure that the state can pay for. It's kind of like like an investment, like a New Deal kind of thing. We definitely have a lot of need out there. Bridges and roads that are really worn out, and we need to probably make that investment, and that can hire more people. That's just a few ideas. Otherwise we're out of time, I guess. I guess Sarah can answer, but should we just all come back?
Yeah, could we maybe?
Yeah, they haven't cut us off yet, and then sometimes it doesn't happen. So
Okay.
Let's just continue. If we get cut off, just come back in, and netcode 1056 is the password. So Sarah?
Sure. It looks like we've got less than a minute, so I'll speed talk here. As far as our economic recovery goes, first we'll need to concentrate on the workforce and make sure that through our workforce commissions all across the state, we are investing in the retraining and of workers who've been displaced and get them into good paying jobs. We also need to invest in their child care. We have a whole new definition of essential worker, and that's a good thing. And that's what's going to help us in a bipartisan fashion, that we all now understand who's essential, and that's very good. We'll need to get those essential workers subsidized child care so that we can make sure that everybody can get back to work in a safe way and their kids can be someplace safe while they do that. Next, we need to concentrate on business. First, small businesses, particularly those homegrown businesses, are the businesses that will keep us resilient into the future. To the extent that we give tax subsidies to big businesses, and I'm not a huge fan of that, They need to be big businesses that are going to expand our supply chain and make us more resilient into the future, and hire people from Texas and help us train them up for mid-skilled jobs. I, along with the mayor of Austin, were the first to create a workforce solutions master plan to do just that. Next, we have to have a transportation system investment. And when I talk about transportation, I'm not just talking about asphalt. When I talk transportation, I'm talking about the transport of people, goods, information, and water.
I think we got just about everybody back now, and I think it was Sarah that got cut off. So
Actually, perfect illustration, because part of our economic rebuild and infrastructure, as I said, it needs to be moving people, goods, ideas, and information, as well as our water infrastructure. We don't have a statewide, a really good statewide system for any of those. And as we just saw, we got knocked off of Zoom. We need to make sure that we've got broadband available really robustly. It is the way to the future. We have lots of work to do in that regard.
yeah, and I think there's plenty of room for improvement as far as the networks go. Sarah, I think you have a question next.
Yeah, I do. I had a question particularly for Judge Eckhart. So you've mentioned several times that you're leaving Travis County in good hands, but as we know, we have an incompetent president and governor who are set on prematurely reopening the state. So how can you justify this as being in good hands for the county?
I'm not leaving Travis County at all. As a matter of fact, I'm going from representing 1.3 million people of Travis County to campaign to represent slightly less than that covers most of Travis County and all of Bastrop County. So I'm not leaving. I may be changing hats, but I'm not leaving. So I announced my resignation March 10th, but when COVID-19 hit hard, I stayed at my post and have been working along with Mayor Adler and our whole public health infrastructure to build the scaffolding for a public health response that the state was nowhere in helping us on. I continue in that role, but without that title. So I stayed on as a holdover judge, and even with Judge Bisco coming on as the interim judge, he's asked me to continue on as his special assistant for COVID-19 response and recovery. So I am still involved. I am making phone calls every day and reaching out to our state officials, talking with our U.S. congressmen and U.S. senators with regard to the federal funding around COVID-19, talking to the governor's office about the distribution of federal funding that came to the state and the federal funding that came to our major metro counties. So I am still, I am perhaps more engaged on the COVID-19 response and recovery than I was when I was holding the title of county judge, and was also responsible for all the administration of the county services in addition to COVID-19. So this is an extension of my public service. It's not the end of my public service to the county. It is an extension of it.
Okay, Laura, did you have a question earlier?
Hi, yes, I had a question too for Judge Eckhart.
Sure.
Hi, how are you doing? So over the past few weeks, the debt in Travis County has risen significantly,
yes.
But you left your position to run for higher office. So how would you justify leaving your position for higher office, leaving Travis County?
First, I wouldn't characterize it as higher office. It's a different office. And it's an office that's in sore need of some collaborative leadership, because we're not really getting that. We have fewer dead in Travis County because of our collaborative leadership here. I think that the University of Texas analysis of what we have done over the past 2 months to respond to COVID-19 has, according to their analysis, has saved up to 5,000 lives. That would not have happened under the state's leadership. As a matter of fact, one thing that we put in place that had a hugely beneficial effect was the Stay Home Work Safe order that the governor has now essentially rescinded. The governor rescinded all of county judges and mayors' Chapter 418 powers to respond in times of disaster declaration and took them all to himself. But he's very slow to respond. And so we continue to work with him all across the major metros. I am in collaboration with all 6 of our major metro county judges, and Mayor Adler is in collaboration with all 6 of our major metro cities, so that we can build the kind of medical and economic response that our constituents need to recover from this. The state's not building it. The governor created a task force, which was actually really pretty good and has some good people on it. But my understanding is he's not talking to them much. It is possible that the county judges and the mayors are talking to that task force more than the state leadership is. So I want to go to the state Senate and continue that bridge between local governments and state government so that we as partners can rebuild our state.
Thank you, Sarah. I have a question. I'd like to hear it from Eddie. And this is something that I have never heard anybody address. It's just an accepted atrocity in this state. And that's the payday loan businesses. These are just companies that rip people off to who laid it. I just don't understand why they even exist. I know states, my former one, they are actually against the law there. They're not allowed.
What state is that?
Go ahead.
Well, what state? What's there?
Oh, Iowa. Iowa refuses to allow payday loans. You've got credit unions and banks, and credit unions are far more efficient and cheaper and give you a credit rating, where payday loans just rip you off. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
would
sure.
like to see that taken out of Texas.
Yeah, and I worked on that several sessions. In fact, I worked, of all things, me and Tom Craddock, the former Speaker of the House, joint authored that legislation well, it didn't ban them altogether, but it lowered the interest rate so it was more comparable to, say, like a credit card or something like that. I mean, when you try everything you can to make things better. I mean, eliminating them altogether wouldn't even have gotten a hearing, I don't think. So, and it tells you the power and the strength of that industry, because even with the former Republican Speaker, we couldn't get it through. I mean, we actually got it to the Senate, I believe, and I think it died in the Senate. But that was probably a few years ago. So I'm with you on that. It feeds and it preys on the poor. And it should be completely eliminated as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Daniel, excuse me?
May I respond to that?
Oh, sure.
Payday lending is definitely a scourge and it needs to be gotten rid of. The way to get rid of it is to not focus exclusively on payday lending and instead broaden the focus to credit and capital generally. Individuals can't access credit and small businesses can't access capital because of some ridiculous Byzantine regulations. So we need to get rid of all of that, including payday lending, so that there aren't usurious interest rates in any sector, including reverse mortgage, including some of our red line practices in the insurance business. We need to be looking at those kind of usurious regulations about access to capital up and down the scale. And we will bring in Republican supporters by doing that, because that is a problem across the board that is not partisan. And it also goes beyond that one-off issue, a very important issue, but still a one-off issue that can become very polarizing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ann Withrow has a question now. Ann?
Can I get a
Fine, thanks, Tom.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're kind of blipping in and out.
Okay. Well, first of all, to both Sarah and to Eddie, thank you for your public service. I'm a retired public servant myself, and several members of the Indivisible group that I'm a part of are also, either current or retired state employees. When I think ahead to what the state of Texas will do to try to balance the budget, it sets my knees to knocking, because historically they do tend to try to balance the budget on the backs of the people who don't have the power to fight back and on public employees. So do you have some sense of where the state will be looking to balance the budget? And also, what are your limits on what you would accept on how they would do that? Do you already have some idea in mind of like where your red line is? Thank you.
Is it me, Sarah? Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead, Eddie.
Okay. That's a great question. And I understand your concern and your fear, and I share them actually. And I'm a pretty optimistic guy by nature, but it's going to be a pretty tough budget. Generally speaking, the biggest budget items are public ed, higher ed, and healthcare. Those are the three biggest ones. And it's interesting. The sad thing is that that's where Republicans tend to want to cut, but that's where we have most of our federal matching dollars, which is, it's kind of counterintuitive. I won't get too much in the weeds, but I will say that it's hard to answer the question really specifically, because we don't know what the budget shortfall is going to be, and we don't know if we're going to get some federal stimulus for that. It's just too soon. Not to mention that we'll have a new president, I hope, and hopefully a Democratic Senate as well. And so who knows what we might get from the federal government. Other than that, we have to. My bright line is public education and healthcare. Those two things, I don't want to touch those at all. My understanding is we have $8 to $10 billion in the rainy day fund. The days of that being a sacred cow are over. We cannot just not touch that just because, for some crazy reason, the Republicans have just made it a sacred cow, and that's just not going to happen anymore. It can't. I think that I don't think we should spend it all down, though. I'll be honest with you. We should probably have some in reserve. The thing about, and the reason why is because that the rainy day fund, or the economic stabilization fund, is funded through oil and gas revenue, through taxes based on that, which we know right now is not going to be very much. So I think we have to look at some sales tax loopholes to see who should be paying, who's not paying right now. I think we should look at some of those specifically. The Republicans are going to maybe try, like they did last session, to increase the sales tax. That is an absolute non-starter for every Democrat I know. And not to mention the business community will go after that, because particularly if you're a retailer or a restaurant, that's just going to be harder for recovery. So it's a lot of challenges, and you're absolutely right. I'm just hopeful that when Democrats take the House, and we'll be less draconian cuts, and maybe we'll have enough federal dollars to make it so it's not so painful to get us through the recovery, and then have a softer 2023. That's what I'm hoping for.
Sounds good to me. David Albert has a question, and David, please.
Sarah.
I think Sarah was going to answer.
Sarah.
Get a chance to answer that last one.
Yeah.
So if I can go after her.
Senator Jane Nelson has said that she wants to do a zero-based budget, and that should send everybody's knees to knocking, because that sounds like everything's getting zeroed out. At Travis County, we do budgets every year. We balance them. We know the difference between one-time money and ongoing funds. The Economic Stabilization Fund, the Rainy Day Fund, is one-time money. So it can help us out in an emergency, but it can't plug our structural deficits with regard to ongoing responsibilities. The state of Texas has some very important ongoing responsibilities that could never be zeroed out, and that's just ridiculous to even call them something that could be zeroed out. Healthcare and health and human services, economic education K through 12 and higher education, courts and justice, which very rarely gets discussed but is absolutely necessary for fairness and economic resiliency. And we need infrastructure, as I've said before. So what we need to do from an economic standpoint, from a budget standpoint, we do need to get to the engine block of the budget. I wouldn't call it zero-based, but we can't fiddle around the edges and rely on the rainy day fund. We have to get down into the engine block of the budget And we need to look at all preferential tax treatment that has been handed out to business and review all of it to see if it is actually working. I would suggest to you that academic research shows that it very rarely works and is very rarely reviewed. So that's one area where revenue could be increased by taking back what was given. Also, we need to take a look at diversifying our energy portfolio. We can't rely on fossil fuels any longer. It's too volatile a market. It's absolutely unsustainable. I'm not saying ditch it. It's still very much a part of our culture and very much a part of our budget, but we've got to step up our game with regard to renewable energy sources. The state of Texas created OPEC. We need to stay in the energy game and be a leader there, but it needs to be true leadership in energy, and that will help us out from a budget standpoint as well. And we also need to take a look at our homegrown industries. We've got to rebuild our homegrown industries and start concentrating on our small businesses and the businesses that grow here and scale here and employ here, creating a supply chain that's far more resilient. Getting our manufacturing, what little that we do have in Central Texas, getting it back up from COVID-19 is a struggle because most of the supply chain is elsewhere. It's offshore. And so we are really, really going to struggle in manufacturing. But manufacturing is a great sector for the state to concentrate on in creating more resiliency in budgets for the future. I don't think that we can certainly expect some good one-time dollars from the federal government that'll help bail us out in the near term, but it's going to be one-time dollars. We absolutely have to fix the Texas economy for the long haul. Federal money is not going to fix us for the long haul. That's going to take planning. That's going to take long-term investment of long-term recurring revenue sources. And relying on federal stimulus will only get us through today. It's not going to get us through the next 10 years.
Okay, now, let's see, David.
Yes, thank you. Well, the last question actually got to some of what I wanted to ask you all about, which is, as an educator, I'm terrified of this coming session. It's very reminiscent of 2011 when they savaged the K-12 budget. And, we just got some of that money back last time. And now it looks like they're, that's probably going to be where they're going to go for, savaging K-12 and higher ed. And Eddie said he wanted to protect K-12. I hope you also want to protect higher ed, because our students can't take more tuition increases. Right. We have a student debt crisis that is horrifying, and so many of them, are just not being able to succeed because of it. So I guess my question is, it kind of picks up on what some of you were both kind of talking about. Where do we get the money to, frankly, we don't just need to keep education funded at the current levels. We need a lot more money going into public and K through 12 and higher ed if the state is going to be competitive, if it's going to recover, if we're going to be able to pay our faculty. Our adjunct faculty is already getting horrifically underpaid. I mean, and they've been cutting higher ed for years and passing it on to the students. So,
David, I certainly am in the same boat with you working for St. Ed's. So let's give Eddie a chance to answer that, and then we'll go to Sarah again, okay?
Thank you.
Well, I think it's Sarah's turn, though, to
Sarah's last.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's right.
That's cool. That's cool. Education and training is our best long-term investment for economic vitality. Absolutely. And I know Eddie will say the same, because we are absolutely in agreement here. There is no better investment. There's no better economic investment than in education and workforce training. The state has not been making that investment. As a matter of fact, the state's investment in K through 12 erodes every single year because they keep putting one-time dollars toward it that erode biennium after biennium after biennium. The last tranche of money that they did infuse into the K through 12 educational space was welcome, but again, it was one-time money and it will have eroded by the time the session starts up. So I will make a prediction here. And I think it's something that we have to be really honest about, is that the state is going to, the budget's in tatters, and they're going to be struggling with how to actually address their obligations, our obligations, in both K through 12 and higher ed. The state, and the state Senate specifically, will try to continue playing a narrative that the local governments, including the school districts, are bad and they're tax and spend crazy, and they're taxing you out of your homes, and therefore they're going to do, they're going to stick by their no new taxes and be the champion with another tranche of one-time money. We cannot allow that. The locals and the state have got to be partners in this.
Okay, now, Eddie, if you will speak, and I know we're going to be running out of time again, so let's keep it brief. Eddie, it's your turn.
Thank you. Just to answer the question directly, I mean, I mean, this isn't going to solve the problem in terms of filling the gap, but for example, we do not tax jet fuel in the state of Texas, or if we do, I'm trying to remember if we tax it at all, but I don't think we do. But if we do, it's at a small amount. I mean, that's just got to go. That's an exemption that doesn't need to be there anymore. Last session, we passed, basically, we abolished the yacht tax. So a boat that's of certain size had to pay a certain kind of like a luxury tax to park it, just to have it, and when they get the sticker from the state. We eliminated that last session. So it's little things like that. Again, it's not going to fill the gap, but I think we have to look at things differently and look at all the different unnecessary exemptions that we have. You know, we have some taxes on businesses that have a lot of loopholes in it. The franchise tax, for example, every session it seems we keep raising that bar. So it started off at any business that earns $500,000 a year would pay a certain amount of money through the franchise tax, and then we raised that to $1 million. I think now it's $5 million, and you know, maybe even higher at this point. And so we got to look at that too. I mean, I certainly, I don't want to, right now, we don't want to hit small businesses right now as we're trying to recover, but there are some larger scale businesses that probably aren't paying their fair share. You know, I'm not supportive of this idea. I want to be on record saying that, but some people have talked about taxing services that right now is not taxed. I don't think that's a great idea, but that's something that some Republicans have tried to do in the past. So there's some other things you can tinker with, but again, it's just nibbling around the edges versus actually doing something more substantial that we need to probably put into the whole system, put that in place before we start cutting higher ed, public ed, and healthcare stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to say my living in Texas has taught me one thing, and that is Texas cares about big business and cares very little about his actual people that live here in the state. It's all big business, and I really would like to see that turn around. Then the other thing I want to ask is, either one of you should get this position, I would like you to make a commitment to having a quarterly town hall or some kind of direct communication with everybody that you represent, simply because we do that in my club here as much as we can, but there are people that just never seem to have time to visit with us. And that is something I want you both to commit to doing, okay?
We'll do it, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Sandra, I know that you've been to my coffee jolts that I have every month, the third Thursday of the month. I will continue to have those coffee jolts no matter what position I'm in. I've ramped those up to once a week during the Senate campaign, and we're doing them by Zoom.
Well, I'm appreciative of that, Sarah, but I think going to the various clubs, which do reach out to different kinds of people, might be a good idea to add to your agenda. Now we have, let's see, who had the next question? Wendy Kaploff.
Oh, okay, I'll wait.
Myself. It's real quick. It's a simple one. are you in favor of Project Connect? Yes, no, why, and why not? It's a softball.
Totally, 100% in favor of Project Connect. It's going to be expensive, and we'll have to figure out the appropriate way to manage those expenses, phase it out over a long period of time, get private sector investment in it. But we absolutely have to have a more robust public transit system for the entire region.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm very supportive of that. The only thing I would add to that is that I think we need to start preparing for the future. We're going to probably see more autonomous vehicles. So I was drafting legislation last session that ended up not filing, trying to figure out how we got to have the right systems in place for autonomous vehicles, because that's going to come. It's going to come sooner or later, probably a lot sooner, frankly. Maybe not when like all of us have an autonomous vehicle, but certainly with 18-wheelers or bigger vehicles like that, you might see that. So we might need to look at dedicated lanes in the future for those kind of vehicles as well. But anyway, that's just kind of as an aside. But yes, I'm very supportive of Project Connect.
May I throw in also that on Project Connect, it's going to be really important to have the Central Texas Regional Mobility Authority's involvement in that, because we need to put toll revenues toward Project Connect in order to buy down the burden of it to local taxpayers. We also want managed lane and congestion pricing on I-35. It's going to be a big project and a difficult project. It has been proven on MOPAC that by having a managed lane, we can have robust transit in that same corridor and generate revenue that buys down that tax burden for building the infrastructure. I know Pflugerville is absolutely shot through with toll roads. Y'all are surrounded, and it's unfair in many ways. But in other ways, y'all have better transportation infrastructure than any place else in Central Texas because of it. So we'll keep working on MOCAN, we'll work on MOPAC, we'll work on I-35, and we'll definitely work on transit options.
Okay, it's 2:00 now. Eddie, I think you have another commitment coming up. So do you want to say something to finish off today?
Just thanks for hosting us. It's a big and important position that I feel I have the experience to do it well, and I have the the right values, and I've demonstrated my progressive values over the years, and I want to do that in the Senate and represent you all. So thanks for your time, and until next time, I'll see you all soon.
Okay, thank you very much, Eddie. Now, if Sarah, you want to say your final speech, and then we'll have some business mentions at the end. Go ahead, Sarah.
Sure. This is a great progressive community, and we've made a lot of progress together. I've enjoyed making progress along with Eddie in his work in the Texas legislature. I'm hoping that we can both be in the Texas legislature and keep making progress for Travis County and for Bastrop County.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Now, I believe Susan has an announcement.
Oh, wait, I just did my, yes, I do. Wait a minute, I'm coming back. Okay. Oh, wait. Hello, everybody. Hey, I just wanted to say I worked the March 3rd primary at my precinct location, and I know it's a long day, but I just want to start advocating that we reach out to young people to work the polls, early voting and the day of the election. We cannot rely on the older population to work the polls. Because when I went to training to be the alternate judge for my for my polling location, I was between two people who could barely walk, who were training to be poll workers. So I would just advocate if anybody could take that day off, the election day off, we have enough time to take it off if they're working. Anybody who's not working, looking for work, it's good money. Just start asking people, because we need to make the polling locations as safe as possible, and just get that word out if we could, and both July and for November, because that's just the crucial. And then try to get people. We need to, let them know about the July runoff. So thank you.
We're going to be running out of time again. I got another message. I do want to give a chance to anybody else. Okay, Karen, you have a comment. Karen?
Yeah, the Travis County Democratic Party Training Committee will have training June 20th or 21st. And one of the topics we're going to cover is how to keep yourself safe as an election worker. I'll be doing that as a brief presentation that day. If you guys are interested, we are providing that service.
Thank you very much, Karen. Appreciate that. Daniel, did you have an announcement?
I do have an announcement. Obviously, I want to say that I am so glad to see everybody today, this morning. 27 folks showing up on a Saturday morning when
We had 35 originally.
yeah, there were 35. I see some really awesome some folks who I haven't seen in a while. Jane, Sandra. Oh, there's Eric and Emil. So you guys may have seen that I am running for State Democratic Executive Committee for Senate District 14. That's the, and there's Diana Ramirez. So I'm running for State Democratic Executive Committee, and that is for Senate District 14. I'm going to put it in the chat, the link to my Facebook page, so that you guys can like it. But I just wanted to remind you guys, we've done some really awesome things together over the years. NETCoDemocrats and myself, we in what was it, 2016? Well, gosh, it's been too long now. But when we felt like we didn't have representation in District 46, we said something about it, and we got new representation in 46. And I'm really proud of that. I've been serving as a precinct chair with the Travis County Democratic Party and vice president of Stonewall Democrats, active in NETCoDemocrats, started a new Democratic club with Sandra, and let's see, there's Karen, who also helped out to start the Southeast Democratic Alliance so that we could turn out more Black and brown and working people in Southeast Crescent of Travis County. And so those are some of the values and things that I'm excited about doing when I have that opportunity to serve on the State Democratic Executive Committee. So if you're going to serve as a delegate to the Texas Convention, I hope that you will vote for me. The ballots will go out on the 31st. They're going to be electronically emailed to you, and then you'll have until the 2nd of June to get your ballots in, delegates. If you're not going to this Texas Convention as a delegate, I still really want to encourage you to participate, because just like you're experiencing now, when we have an opportunity to gather as Democrats, we get excited. And we're going to need a lot of excitement to make sure that we're electing Joe Biden President of the United States and turning Texas blue.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting doing a remote Zoom convention. Never heard of such a thing. But anyway, I'm sure it's possible. Karen, I did have a couple of people asking questions about your training. If they're not precinct chairs, how do they join up?
Their precinct chair can sign them up, and if they have trouble, they can contact me.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. I think that probably covers everything, unless somebody has a extreme. Oh, Emil, yes, okay.
Okay, I assume I'm on the air?
Yes.
Okay, just a couple of quick things. If you're interested in being an attendee as opposed to a delegate at the state convention, go to the Texas Democratic Party website. It pops up right in your face, the opportunity to sign up to become an attendee and take part in those parts that are interesting. Next, that, by the way, that's the 1st of June to the 6th of June. June 15th is the last day to register to vote or change address for the July 14th elections. We're not going door to door, so contact everybody you know. Tell them to confirm that they're registered to vote at the correct address. And if they're eligible, to ask them if they might consider signing up to have a ballot by mail. It's a lot easier due to my condition of longevity. I have the opportunity to do that, as some of many others I see here. Okay, the Texas Democratic Party is recommending that you not wait to the last day to request a ballot by mail, but rather to go to the county website and take care of it either now, but not later than June 15th. That way we don't get a backup of requests down at the elections office for them to sort out. Okay, the last date by law for county clerks to receive the ballot by mail is July. The request for a ballot by mail is July 2nd. Don't wait that long, please. Early voting has been extended from July. Correction. Whoops, somebody correct me on this.
Early voting starts on the 29th of June.
29th of June and runs through the 10th of July. This is sort of a quick Abbott scam. It's not going to support ballot by mail, so he gave us an extra week to try to compensate for all the long lines at the polls. But actually, it doesn't work that way. Having the extra week that will give some amelioration, but it really won't eliminate standing out. And of course, the election day is the 14th. And technically we're having two separate elections on that day, the primary and the special election, but it's all the same place, either at your home desk with your ballot by mail or at the polling place, wherever you go. That's it of mine. Thank you.
Okay, I think that about does it. And I got another message we're going to be
I
covering.
actually have one thing, Sandra, real quick. Go to change.org. I got a message from Connie Sheldon to sign the petition and call the Supreme Court on Monday because they're going to have a final ruling about this on Tuesday.
Yeah, and that's also, she should be putting that on our Facebook page and several others. But I just want to tell you our next meeting will be June 20th, and I'm supposing it's going to be on Zoom. Let you know who wonderful people we're going to have to be speaking at that time. But for now, just stay in touch and check your email because we'll be sending things. And also check our Facebook page because that's where we'll be putting all our announcements and information for the next coming months. Because as somebody said earlier, it is exciting. There's a lot of things going on and we got to keep in touch. And this is not easy. It's easier when we're seeing face to face for some reason, but hang in there. Thank you so much. Remember your scarves and your gloves, okay?
Love you guys.
Yes, indeed. Here we are. Love you all.
Show the love by keeping your social distance, y'all.
Thank you.
Sandra.
Uh-oh. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.